Are you looking to sharpen your budgeting skills? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Budget Couple Podcast, where we talk about life, family, and how to afford it. And now, the Budget Couple themselves, Nate and Danielle.
Welcome to the Budget Couple Podcast. I'm Nate.
And I'm Danielle.
And on this episode, we're going to give a quick update from a past episode, and we're also going to answer a listener question. But before we dive into that, we'd always like to encourage you, if you could, to leave a review on your podcast listening place of choice, whether it be Apple Music or any place that you listen to podcasts. Anyone that gives you a chance to review, if you do it, it really helps the show out in growing the show and also helping people find the show so that we can answer more of your questions.
So we're going to start out with a quick update here from 2 or 3 episodes ago. I've lost track at this point.
Yeah, something like that. So
we had kind of brainstormed live. Actually, it was the first time we had really talked about it, trying to control our miscellaneous expenses. And if you've listened to us for a little while, you know we have that weird category in our budget where we toss a lot of different things like car insurance or a vet bill or even just random home improvement stuff. And it kind of gets out of hand, not because we don't have the money to cover it, but because it doesn't allow us to have a consistent monthly budget. And when you're trying to figure out, how much extra you want to put on your house each month or how quickly you want to pay off a debt, it's really hard when you don't have a consistent amount left over each month.
Yeah, because what we're really trying to do is make sure we can put a consistent amount into the house or into savings or somewhere. We want to make sure that we always are putting the same amount in just so that things are a little more predictable and we can kind of gauge our success a lot easier.
So we brainstorm exactly how to do that. We know that Nate's parents do it, and we've never done anything like that. So we tried to figure out what all of those miscellaneous expenses really were in our life and add them all up for the year and then divide by 12 so we could start putting that chunk of money into savings each month as a consistent amount. And then as we need it, we take it out. So what we did was we sat down and really, really thought about it a little bit more after the podcast, and we decided on $400 a month. And the things that we're counting in this miscellaneous category are car insurance, life insurance, any minor repairs to the house or car. And by repairs, that could also mean like an oil change too.
Which we just did.
Yeah.
$108.
Events and entertainment. This is not the same as our entertainment category in our budget. This isn't like going out to eat or anything. This is things like we took baby boy, which is what we call our son, to medieval times a couple months ago. So that's an expensive endeavor. I mean, and so we, instead of killing our budget for that month or putting us off track, that is going to be part of this yearly thing. Pets, not pet food. That's part of our monthly budget already, but things like vet bills, which somehow are like $200 or $300 a visit, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's insane, but we do it because they're not really even getting here. They're like our kids.
Yep. Oh yeah. Also gifts. So we spend a lot of random money, on gifts each year, not just Christmas, birthdays, Mother's Day, whatever. And then finally home improvement. So not anything huge like our kitchen and bath that we just did, but things pretty simple, like we just replaced all of the smoke detectors in the house. So random like home needs like that.
And smoke detectors, if you don't know, are oddly expensive for what they are. They're just little pieces of plastic that sit and beep, and they're like $20 a pop, and you can spend way more than that if you want to get like fancy ones.
Yeah, I didn't know any of this stuff. I really
The more you know.
Not interested. So we decided to do $400 a month. And what we do is we just transfer that amount over to savings. So it's just a new line item in our budget, the way we would transfer money to our 401k or whatever. So how this actually works in practice, because we were kind of like, it seems pretty obvious, but like you just have to make sure you understand how you're doing it each month.
Yeah, we actually sat down on the couch the other night and had to think through it mentally. How does this actually work? Because putting money into savings is one thing, but pulling it back out or doing something with it when you actually have to spend the money, we have to think about how that actually works.
So really stupid, simple math, seriously. But, just to put it into practice here. So let's say we spent $150 this month. And I think that's around what we have spent for new smoke detectors and an oil change. So instead of transferring $400 over to savings for this month and then $150 from savings to pay for those miscellaneous things, we're just going to instead transfer $250 to savings. So we're just, skipping that step because we don't want to have several transfers a month for no reason. So just do your simple math each month, make sure it's breaking even and doing what you're supposed to.
Yeah. So basically, instead of transferring $400 over to savings and then transferring $150 back, we're just doing the subtraction and only putting $250 over into savings, and then we're good there. Okay, so we're going to talk about car insurance. Let's say car insurance comes in about $500 for the 6-month period that we have to pay, but it's a 1-month check that we have to write. That's obviously $100 more than the $400 that we would normally want to put into savings. So what we're going to do is we're going to transfer $100 out of savings, and we're going to transfer no money into savings, because the $400 that we're supposed to put into savings plus the $100 that we transfer over into our checking account is a total of $500. So we're able to pay for it very quickly, very easily. And then that month we didn't increase our savings, and we only decreased it by $100 to cover the $500 total difference.
And in essence, we're still left at even for that month. And that's our goal. We just want our monthly amount that we have left over to be the same, so we know how much we're putting towards our house.
Right. So if we have $100 left over after every month, that should happen every single month with the budget set up this way. We shouldn't have any difference. There shouldn't be a fluctuation. There should be no change. It should just be the flat whatever we have left, which I don't really even know what that is at this point.
Me neither. And again, this sounds super complicated. It is completely not complicated. We just want to make sure you guys understand, what we're doing and what our thought process has been, as simple as it is.
And on a completely side note, if you want to see video versions of like what we're talking about, because I think visual on this is a lot easier to understand, just drop us a line and I'll be happy to make something and put it on our YouTube channel and also on our website so you can see it very quickly and easily.
And that is one of our goals eventually, to get some video type of things down, especially around budgeting and how we set up our Excel sheet. We haven't gotten around to it yet, but that's one of our goals in the future.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to one of our listener questions. It's a pretty short one, but it's a good one. So I'm gonna just read a little bit to get us into the context. So we are trying to get a grasp on creating a budget, and where to start is overwhelming. Have you guys used Mint, or is Excel what works best for you? We have larger debt for the first time and just want to take the best steps to keep it on track. Okay, so that's totally fair. I mean, it's great that you guys are starting to think about a budget, and it's, debt happens. That happens to most people. It has happened to us through house and car.
Yeah, and almost nobody is completely debt-free, especially when you have a house. You can be. It's not to say you can't, but when you buy a house, most of the time you're not going to pay for it 100% in cash. Yep.
So, debt is something you just have to deal with. And, budgets can be overwhelming to begin with. But it's a really simple process, and it just takes that first step. That first step is the hardest, at least in our experiences, I think.
So to dive into the first part of this question, have we used Mint or anything like that? We've tried a couple of different versions of things. We did an episode on EveryDollar, which was an app that we've tried out. It was good. It didn't, I don't think, work for us. I think we're kind of stuck in our ways using Excel/Google Sheets. But I did try Mint for a little while when I was in college. Now, at the time, this is roughly 10 years ago. That's terrifying.
Yeah,
that's
we're
terrifying.
Old.
Yeah, geez. But when we were doing this, or when I was doing this, there's a free version of Mint, and then there's a more expensive, like $100 a year one that did a lot more for you. But essentially, you hook your credit card or your debit card or both on your bank account into Mint, and then it categorizes things for you. It does a pretty decent job, and you can kind of set up things in there. The only thing I personally didn't like about it, and I haven't looked at it for a long time since then, so I don't know if it does that anymore, is that it categorizes for you. You can't really kind of preset your categories. So you can figure out what you spend each month on things, which is nice, but I want to know how much I have left to spend. And I don't know if they've changed that or done anything with that. Again, this is 10 years ago, before they were even owned by Intuit. But that's kind of where I'm at with that. So we really kind of stick with Google Sheets, and that's kind of been where we've been at our entire marriage for the most part, because I think it's just what works for us. And in all honesty, everybody budgets a little bit differently. There's no one app or thing that's going to make everything magical, because everybody does it a little differently. So there's no way that every single app can be perfect for you. You just have to find something that works the best way for you.
I would say the best place to start is figuring out your actual strategy and your numbers ahead of time before you decide on an app to use. Also, definitely don't spend money on an app right away. I would suggest trying out a few free ones before you really get into the thought process of buying one, because not to say that you shouldn't spend money on one, but make sure that it's for a very good reason and that you have that backed up by months of good budgeting.
This is also one of Danielle's pet peeves, is spending money on something that you're not possibly fully committed to yet. So if you're going to spend money on something, you need to be fully committed to it. If you're just starting the budgeting process, or you're not sure it's for you, or you're not sure how you want it to work, don't spend money on it yet, because you don't want to waste money on something when you're trying to save money.
Yes, exactly. It is one of my pet peeves. But again, as Nate said, all these apps and other things, and even Excel, they're all just tools. So really for budgeting, there is no one solution to getting started, but I would say your best bet is to start with figuring out what your long and short-term goals are, at least money-wise in your life. So get together with your partner, your spouse, whatever, and figure out what those goals are. So you guys mentioned that you want to pay off debt, that's at least one of your short-term goals, or maybe long-term, depending on how much debt, but you want to pay that debt off. So how quickly do you want to pay it off? That'll help determine how much you have to put towards it each month to do it. So don't worry about the minimum payment. You don't want to be paying the minimum payment. You want to pay it off quickly. So figure out how quickly. And then I really do advocate for writing everything down that you've spent for the month. So you can do this live. You can do it like during the next month, or you can do it retrospectively by looking at bank statements and credit card statements over the past few months. Either way is fine, or you can use both, but essentially get an idea of where you're spending your money and also how much you have coming in. Surprisingly, not everyone actually knows what their paycheck is. They just don't pay attention maybe, but just figure out what your income is each month, post-tax, post-insurance, post-everything. What amount goes into your bank account each month?
What does the check actually say? Not the stuff that you say, this is what I've made, what you actually have to spend.
Yep. And also what your expenses are. So you'll have your income and you'll have your expenses for that month. And that'll help you know exactly where you're at with your budget. So if your expenses are higher than your income, you've got some work to do because you're putting yourself in more debt every single month. That's really bad. You don't want to be doing that. And even if you're breaking even and you have pretty much the same income and expenses, that's not really going to help you pay off debt quickly. So instead, I would say separate out your wants and needs. Figure out, so you've already written down all the money that you spend each month. Figure out what is a want, what is a need. Need, literally, it's just what you need to live and work. And so then from there, determine where you can start cutting. So look at all of those needs. Some of them might not quite feel like needs. You look at your cable bill and you're like, that's a need. It's really not, though. Think about it. Maybe you can drop one of your, maybe you can drop HBO or Showtime, or maybe you can drop cable in and of itself and do a couple subscriptions and it ends up being cheaper. There are options here, even if you don't feel like it is just a want.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you have to keep HBO during Game of Thrones, but otherwise you can drop it and it'll be fine.
I mean, that is a need.
It absolutely is. But, and I'm playing kind of devil's advocate here because you don't need those things. It's nice to have a lot of those things, but a lot of stuff that falls into what we generally classify as needs, like I need to see the show, you don't. It's not something you need. Need is purely just something you need to live. Electricity, gas for your car, insurance for your car, mortgage on your house, food, clothing. Those are the things that you absolutely 100% need. Everything after that is 100% a what? You're only worried about living.
And don't get too drawn into allowing yourself more than what you should. I mean, yes, we need food to live, but really look at your grocery bill. Look at how many times you're eating out. That might be in an area where you can cut, actually. And then clothing. I mean, yes, you need clothes. But do you need the amount of clothes that you have? I know that's a weakness for me. And it's, I put most of my clothes on my personal budget. So it hurts when I, as much as I love going out and shopping, it hurts when I completely destroy my budget in one shopping trip.
Yeah, I don't buy clothes that much.
So really that's what we would say. Those are the steps that we would go through, just very basic, just to get you started, goals, writing everything down, figuring out what your income and expenses are, figuring out what exactly you need to pay off that debt each month, and then trying to cut those once wherever you possibly can. And part of that is going to be just really taking time each month to continue to write everything down and, make a cut here and there, see if you can go without it, see what it does to your budget. And, it's going to have to be iterative most likely, because it's tough to live by a budget if you haven't done that before. It's a tough transition.
And a budget is a fluid thing. Our budget continues to change. I think in the past year, or at least since we've been doing this podcast, we've changed our budget probably 4 to 5 times. And we've been doing this for about a year and a half now. So we've changed it a number of times and adjusted and changed things to better fit what we're doing, what our income is, and what our goals are. So don't think of it as this is locked in stone, this is what it has to be. It can be fluid, but you need to make sure that it's always referencing the goals that you and your family have so that you can fit those goals. Without having goals, you have nowhere to guide you to spend your money and where you should be putting your money.
Yep. I mean, that really keeps us in check. When we don't have like a serious goal of we want to get this freaking house paid off, or the second mortgage that we took out to pay for our kitchen and bathroom or whatever, those really guide us and help us say, you know what, we have to stay on budget this month. We are already over on our entertainment. We're not going out to eat tonight. I mean, that sort of thing is just, we make those decisions and we don't feel trapped by that. We feel free by that fact because we know we can control our money. We can control ourselves. And that's a good feeling.
Absolutely. But I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode. If you have any questions for us, you can always visit our website at budgetcouple.com and click on that contact form. Again, if you have any reviews, questions for us, or anything like that, we'd love to hear them, and we're always willing to answer your questions. So please make sure you send those in to us, and we'll make sure we answer them here live on the digital airwaves.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Budget Couple Podcast with your hosts, Nate and Danielle. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit budgetcouple.com. Make sure to check out the next episode of the Budget Couple Podcast, where we'll talk more about life, family, and how to afford it. We'll catch you next time.